Hello everyone, and welcome to Cloud Automation Guide, where we simplify DevOps, cloud, and automation for everyone. In today's walkthrough, we're diving into a powerful hybrid cloud capability, integrating VMware Aria Automation and native AWS services. This integration unlocks a streamlined, secure, and highly scalable way to provision and manage AWS resources, all from within Aria Automation's unified interface. We'll start by showing how to configure cloud accounts and cloud zones for AWS, and then move into how to build dynamic blueprints that take advantage of AWS native services like EC2, S3, and Lambda. Throughout this video, I'll also be sharing architect insights to help you align with AWS Well-Architected Framework, ensuring your designs are secure, efficient, and scalable. If you're ready to bridge your VMware private cloud with AWS and take your automation strategy to the next level, this video is for you. Let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do in order to connect up Aria Automation to AWS is we need to create a cloud account. However, before we can create a cloud account, we actually have to have a user in AWS with which to connect. So you go over into AWS and you go to the IAM console. Just click IAM, type IAM and click on it. Click on users, create a user. So I'm going to do Aria. And then I'm going to add the user to a group. In this case, it's full admins. Once we're there, create user. Now you actually have to create an access key. So you do that by clicking on the user, click security credentials, then create access key. You're going to choose type other. Give it a description. And then you need to copy and paste. So we're going to copy the access key, go back to Aria Automation, and then now we're actually going to go create the cloud account. So you click on the assembler, infrastructure, cloud accounts, add a cloud account. You're going to choose AWS, give it a name. You're going to connect as an IAM user. Now, you see there's another option here for a trusted identity role and assume role. We're going to talk about that as soon as we get done creating this. But that is a more secure way in order to access AWS. So we copied the access key. You're going to paste it here. And then you're going to copy the secret access key. And you're going to paste it here and validate. It's going to validate the credentials, and then it's going to enumerate the regions that you want to make available, right? And then from there, you just select what you want, and then you click add, and it creates everything. So see from there, we have our cloud zones. It created a different cloud zone for each region. And you look in the compute. There must be a cloud zone already. It's either that or it hasn't added yet. Oh, just took time to enumerate. And then it adds each one of the computes in as its own availability zone within the region. And that's the basics of it. Before we move on, let me show you how to more securely connect Aria Automation to your environment. First off, we have to delete this. I'm going to go into IAM and I'm going to delete this user, because what we're going to do is we're going to create a user who has read-only access. And then we're going to create a policy and a role which gives Aria Automation the permissions that it needs. So we're not giving it full admin right, and we don't want to be giving out a whole bunch of access keys, right? Because you got to manage them and expire them and all the other stuff. It's better if you can just create a single user with a single access key that has read-only access, and then you create a role and a policy that Aria Automation can assume and access. Um, and so if you had multiple instances, et cetera, basically it's just a more secure way to do that. So similar to what we just did, we have to create a new user. This is going to be our read-only user. So Aria read-only user. I'm going to attach policies directly. I'm going to choose the EC2 read-only. And the reason that I'm doing this is because this user, you have to have some access, right? You can't just say you have nothing. You can't give this user just like STS assume role access. You actually have to create, you know, you have to give it something that gives it more of a broader access. So we've created that. I gave it the EC2 read only, and now we have to create an access key. So you're probably wondering, why are we creating another access key? Um, the way that the cloud account sets up is if you want to create an AWS cloud account for this type of setup, you have to do the trusted identity. So this is a trusted account that is going to be used by all other AWS cloud accounts in Aria Automation to do the connect. And it's asking for an access key and a secret key. It's just the nature of the beast, how that works. So we're going to do this Aria master access key, right? And same thing, we're going to copy, and then we're going to get the secret and we're going to paste, and we're going to validate. Now you're going to see something different here when it validates though. It's going to validate, but it does not enumerate the regions, right? Because this is not used to provision resources in the cloud. It's just used strictly for authentication. So now we add. Now to add the account that we're actually going to use to provision resources, we're going to go through the same process again. Right? But this time we're going to assume role. Now you can create new cloud accounts still connecting as an IAM user, but for this we're going to assume role. Now there's two things that you need to take note of. You're going to need to get the ARN or the identifier of the role that gets created. And this little box here will help you with that, and it shows you all the procedures that you need. And you're going to need to use this external ID when you create the role. So let's click on Create IAM Role. And then first thing you're going to have to do, here's all the instructions, right? You're going to have to log in to where you can create a role. And then your first thing you're going to do is create a policy. That policy is going to contain all of this, right? So you're allowing all of these permissions, right? You're allowing all of this on all object types, right? And this is basic. If there's more, like it needs access to Lambda to do things, you're going to have to put that stuff in here too, S3, so on and so forth. This is just basic EC2 at the moment. So once we have that copied, we're going to go back into IAM, and then we're going to create a policy. And then the statement that you copied, it's that whole statement, right? So take note of what you have, paste, right? Next, name it. So we'll call it Aria. I'll just do for this custom Aria execution policy, right? See what it's giving you access to. create. Oh, no spaces. So now we have a policy. What's next? Next, after we've created the policy, we have to create a role. So come to roles, create a role. Now you're going to the type of role, it's going to be for an AWS account, right? It says here select another account, but we don't have to. We're going to use this account, right? And then we are going to require an external ID. Now, this is where that external ID, which is in the cloud account, comes in handy because you need this. What this says is that whoever's using this role must have this ID. Okay, so you hit next, and then now we have to add the policy that we just created, which says whoever assumes this role will have this permission. And you can see what the action is on this role is it's allowing us to assume the role, right? If your ID is this ID and you have all of these permissions. So Aria execution role. We'll just call Aria assume permissions role. Create role. So now that the role is created, we have to copy the ARN, come back over to Aria Automation, paste, validate. We should get a successful validation. Nope, we're not getting that validation, and I know why. Because I forgot to include a single permission on the account that we've configured for the master account. So the account for the master account must have the permission of assume role. Let me see if I actually have one already. Let's see, filter service STS. What do we want to do? We want it to assume role on all resources. Thank you very much. Policy name, custom Aria auto assume role perms. Okay, let's try the validation again. And we're validated. So your master account has to have read-only access to something to connect, and it has to have the assume role. If I only put the assume role on here, or the assume role permissions on here, but I didn't have anything else, it would fail. And just like you saw, you know, what would fail is actually creating the master account. So it's a little bit of catch here. In order to create the master account, you have to have an IAM user that has some sort of read-only access. To create your assume role account, your master account user has to have assume role permissions. So that way, when it tries to connect, assuming this role, it has the permission to do so. Right? So just make sure you have those two things. Now, just like when you use an IAM user though, once you've validated successfully, now you have the ability to select your regions that you want to be able to use for this cloud account. Then you do that, you hit add, and it creates your cloud zones for you if you have that object selected. Takes a little bit for things to show up, but now we have our compute in there. So let's go to a project. I'm going to use this templates project, and we're going to add some cloud zones. The reason I'm using this particular project is because whenever I go to create or mess with my cloud templates, when I create cloud templates, I assign them to this templates project. It allows me to do dev and test and whatnot before actually releasing it to another catalog to be used by the general population. So that's why I'm in this templates project right now, and I'm adding those cloud zones to it to give them the ability to do things. Um, and then everything else remains the same. We're going to save. And now, once we've done that, you have successfully connected your Aria automation with AWS. And you're just about ready to start doing stuff with your cloud templates. But if you're doing things, remember, if you've seen any of the other videos or have experience with Aria automation, if you're doing things like I'm deploying an EC2 resource or an instance and I want to connect it to a network and I want to use, I want Aria automation also to define the network. I have to add those networks to network profiles, right? So otherwise, if I try to deploy, for instance, my cloud account or my cloud template here, I have an EC2 resource and I have a network, right? It'll never find the network if I don't have a network profile. So let me create a network profile real quick, and it's per region, right? So because it's per cloud zone, per region. With vCenter, it's per cloud account, right? Um, when it comes to public cloud, it breaks them up based upon region. Um, it's kind of not so fun, but it makes sense because each region, they have their own VPCs and all that. So it's basically a VPC limitation. So let's just use US East 1. So I'll do AWS US East 1. Add my networks, right? I'm going to add all of my networks from US East 1, 1A, B, C, D, all that other good stuff. Let me just do US East 1A and 1B. Leave C out of it for now. Actually, no, I'll include them too. So these tags that you see over here on the right-hand side, these are all created within AWS. So the only reason that these exist is because within AWS, I'd already created them before adding this account. I also added these tags, and it's to help support user providing values for input fields and then them getting mapped to constraint tags. So now that I have the networks in, I can associate security groups if I want to, but these are automatically assigned to the NICs. So, if your use case supports it, great. Otherwise, you're going to do all this over at the, on the cloud template level. So we're going to create, and now we have our network profile for US East 1. We're going to do our demo against US East 1. Otherwise, I would create multiple network profiles. Now let's move on to the cloud template itself. So you saw it already, little pieces of it. So let's first take a look and see what AWS objects we can mess with out of the box. So you got S3, DNS for Route 53, your Redshift database, RDS databases, Lambda functions, KMS keys, Kinesis Firehose, IAM, all this good stuff, right? This is out of the box. What you don't see over here are subnets or even security groups. Excuse me. So, in order to be able to implement those objects, you actually have to leverage the cloud agnostic components, which is a network and a security group. But once you do, everything's good to go. So that being said, once you get it all in here and connected together, then you can start customizing your cloud template. Like in this case, I have two inputs where the user, or three inputs actually. The user provides a name, availability zone, and app tier values, and then that gets mapped through into your actual objects. For instance, like how do I select the network? Well, the user provides the availability zone and the app tier, and then Aria Automation says, well, based upon those, I'm constrained to select a network which matches those values, that has tags that matches those values. When it comes to the security group, um, let's go back and take a look at our security groups because those get pulled in too. And so you'll see that, like in US East 1, in AWS, if we take a look at the security group, right, let's just take a look at, say, the web security group, right? It's a key value pair when it comes to the tag. You have the name is a key, the value is web. Not to confuse things too much, but when you're dealing with like NSX security groups, you do basically a tag where and then key equals this, value equals this. But with an NSX, or excuse me, AWS, that pulls into Aria Automation as key colon value. And so the actual tag constraint is going to look like what it does here. Key, colon, and then the user provides the value. So this is how it will dynamically assign the network and then dynamically assign the security group. Security group already exists. There's rules already applied, and so like in this case, inbound rules, I'm allowing everything on 443, or I'm allowing on 443 from anywhere into into this security group, right? Or into this anything with a security group. Outbound, however, in this case, it's all traffic, right? All protocols, all ranges, but to a specific security group. And in this case, it's the app. Just like on the app, I say I'm allowing everything from the web security group, and I'm allowing everything out to the database security group. Whereas on the database, I am allowing everything in from the app security group, and I'm allowing everything out to the app security group, but nothing else. Okay, so that's pretty much the only way you can get more secure than that is to say, hey, I'm not allowing all traffic. I'm only going to allow on this port or whatever. You can get more granular, but you don't want to, unless you absolutely have to, allow everything from everybody. And preferably don't allow everything out to everybody, right? Because if you do have a system that gets compromised, you want to limit the scope of what the attacker has access to, right? You don't want them to compromise a host that's, they're allowed to talk to anything on every port, right? So they'll go use that if they can and pivot, right? You want to limit what attackers have access to, especially in a public cloud environment, right? So I digress. We're back here in this environment. We've got everything set up, ready to go. Now, one thing I do need to make sure, I'm going to pause the video here for a second and make sure I have the right permissions. But remember the role that we used here, the assume role, right? I need to make sure before I try to actually demo for you this deployment that the role here, the permissions that it's using, I can do the security groups and everything else. So I'm pause the video for a second, go do the confirmation, and if it works, I will come back and we will resume. So real quick, one thing I forgot to demo too is remember when you create the cloud account, especially if you're demoing and you're used to standing up and tearing down, when you create a new cloud account, everything that was associated with that cloud account has to be recreated. For instance, when you are using image mappings, right? You kind of want to recreate your image mappings. So I need to make sure that I can get the right image because you'll see over here in my resource the test I did failed, and that's because um, my image mapping and I know my flavor mapping is also messed up. I have to recreate those. So again, I'm going to pause the video and make sure everything's good to go. Come back to you and we'll resume. All right, so we are good to go. We are actually provisioning. Just to show you what I used, basically the virtual machine name is test1. I selected to do the app tier, right? I'm deploying to US East 1A. So let's take a look and see if we can see anything inside yet. Nope, nothing yet. Again, I'm gonna pause it, wait for it to start creating something, and then I'll be right back with you. All right, so I now have we now have a virtual machine that has been deployed in AWS. Again, US East 1A. I named it AWS Aria Demo and put it on the app tier. So let's take a look at what we have within AWS. We've got a VM named, or an instance named what we wanted. Let's take a look at security group. It should be on the app security group, and it is. And let's take a look at networking. It is on the app network. So um, that's just the basics of integrating Aria automation with AWS, and especially doing it securely by allowing it to assume the role. So now that we've done that, let's take a look at some of architectural best practices. So first off, security.